Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Daily Easy English Talk. I'm Emma.
And I'm Jack. Thanks for joining us.
Have you ever been there explaining something? You know it backwards and forwards, but you just get that polite nod back.
The nod that tells you, well, absolutely nothing, really.
Exactly. Or you realize, like 5 minutes down the road, that you're on totally different wavelengths. It happens all the time.
It really does. A classic communication slip-up.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into something crucial for avoiding that. Making sure, really sure, your message is actually landing.
Yeah, and we've got some simple phrases. Deceptively simple, maybe?
Right, but they're super powerful for checking understanding without making anyone feel, put on the spot or like they're not smart enough. It's more about building that connection.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how these little phrases do so much more than just prevent mistakes. They actually build rapport.
How so?
Well, by asking, you show you care if the other person is following along. It turns it from you just talking at them.
Into a proper conversation, a dialogue.
Exactly. It becomes a shared effort to understand. It helps us get past that curse of knowledge trap.
Yeah, where we just assume everyone knows what we know.
Precisely. So checking in is vital for, well, real connection.
Okay, let's break down the first one. You hear this everywhere. Does that make sense? It sounds friendly, right? Casual.
It definitely is. Super common, feels natural, like a gentle way to ask for feedback, Restart the app, log in again. Does that make sense? Easy.
But is there a catch?
Well, kinda. While it sounds collaborative, if you overuse it or maybe your tone is a bit off.
Like impatient.
Yeah, or dismissive. It can accidentally make it sound like the listener is the problem if they don't get it. So the delivery, that genuine invitation for input, that's key.
Got it. Okay, moving on. What about when you're explaining steps? A sequence of things. I like this next one. Are you with me so far?
Oh, that one's perfect for step-by-step stuff. It creates these little checkpoints.
So you make sure you're both still on the same page before moving on.
Exactly. Like, first, press the red button, then go to settings. Are you with me so far? It stops people getting lost halfway through.
Yeah, saves a lot of backtracking and frustration later. Good one. Now, this third one is really interesting. Am I explaining that clearly?
Ah, yes. This one's clever.
Because it flips the script, right? It puts the responsibility squarely on you, the speaker.
Totally. It's brilliant for lowering defenses.
Yeah.
By asking if you're being clear, you're saying, hey, maybe I could explain this better, instead of implying they aren't listening or understanding.
Takes the pressure off them.
Right? Think about saying, the new policy starts Monday. Am I explaining that clearly? It just opens the door for questions without any hint of blame. Builds trust.
That's a really useful one. Okay, number 4. Do you follow? This one feels a bit different. Maybe more formal.
It can be, yeah. A bit more formal, still polite, though. It works well in, say, more structured settings. Professional context, maybe.
Like in a meeting or a presentation.
Exactly. It signals you want them to grasp the whole story, the argument you're building. Like, the numbers went up because of the new strategy. Do you follow? It's less about a single step and more about the bigger picture, the overall narrative. Are they tracking with your line of reasoning?
Makes sense. Okay, last one. This feels like the kindest one, maybe. Should I go over that again?
Oh, definitely. This one just radiates helpfulness. It's a direct offer of support.
Especially for complicated stuff.
Absolutely. If something's tricky or new to someone, this phrase says, look, I get this might be complex, and I'm happy to explain it again.
Think it's a bit complicated. Should I go over that again?
Precisely. It removes any awkwardness someone might feel about admitting they didn't catch it all the first time. You're proactively offering help.
So wrapping this up, what we've seen is 5 really simple phrases.
Yep, surprisingly simple.
But they can make a huge difference in how clear your conversations are and how connected you feel to the other person. Remember that different planets feeling? These are like your communication GPS.
Yeah. They help ensure your message isn't just sent, it's actually received, understood. That's where the real connection happens. Wow, okay. So those are the 5 key phrases we've sort of pulled out as being really effective. Does that make sense? Are you with me so far? Am I explaining that clearly?
Yeah.
Do you follow? And should I go over that again?
Mm-hmm.
And knowing the phrases like step one, but seeing them actually used in context, that's where you really start to get the feel for the subtle art of when to use which one.
Exactly right. The best way to really grasp the nuance is to hear them in action. So let's maybe run through a few short scenarios, just like quick dialogues, and listen to how these phrases can fit naturally into a conversation.
Okay.
And then we can kind of dissect each one afterwards, figure out why that phrase worked in that specific moment and what it actually achieved.
Great idea. Let's start with something I think many of us have experienced, getting technical instructions, maybe over the phone or on a video call.
Okay, sounds good. How about I'll be the person getting the instructions. You tell me what I need to do.
All right, perfect. So imagine we need to get this app working properly. Here's what you do first.
Okay.
Okay, so you need to open the app, click on Profile, then Settings.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Okay, stop there.
Right. Now, why did I choose? Does that make sense? Right after you said, got it. I mean, you said, got it, which sounds like you understood perfectly.
But that's the classic situation, isn't it? Especially with tech stuff. Someone saying got it can sometimes just mean, okay, I heard the words you said. It doesn't always mean I fully understand the sequence and I know exactly where those buttons are and I can definitely execute it.
Right.
You just gave a sequence. Open, click, click. Does that make sense? Is ideal there because you're checking if the logic of those steps, the sort of pathway you described within the app, is clear in my mind.
Like, does the sequence seem reasonable?
Exactly. Is it logical? Do I understand why I'd go to Profile and then Settings? If I was hesitant, or if I said, well, hang on, where exactly is Profile? Your check-in gave me the perfect low-stakes opening to reveal that ambiguity.
Without having to say, I'm totally lost.
Yeah. Precisely. It keeps the tone helpful, procedural. And think about tech support missing one step early on often leads to complete failure later. So this little check-in, it's like preventative medicine for tech headaches.
Yeah, good point.
It focuses on whether the plan you laid out is comprehensible, which is just critical for following instructions accurately. You weren't doubting my ability to click buttons. You were checking if the process itself made logical sense to me.
Okay, cool. Next scenario, giving directions.
Yeah.
Another classic situation where it's all about sequential steps and getting lost is a very real possibility.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes people give you a little clue, maybe in their tone, that they're not 100% certain. Let's try this one. How about I give the directions this time?
Hey, sounds good. I'm trying to get to the library.
All right. So you turn right at the supermarket, then left at the traffic light.
Okay.
Are you with me so far?
All right, stop. That slight hesitation in my... Okay. What did that signal to you? And why did Are You With Me so far?
Feel like the right response there. That little lift at the end of your okay. That's exactly the kind of subtle cue you listen for. It wasn't a firm, confident, okay, got it. It sounded more like you were processing, maybe trying to visualize the route, but perhaps weren't totally sure you had it locked down.
Yeah, I was picturing two different supermarkets.
See, and directions are absolutely step by step. Getting that first turn wrong means every single instruction after that is completely useless.
Right.
So, are you with me so far? Is the perfect phrase after those first couple of steps because it specifically checks if you've successfully tracked the journey up to that exact point.
Like, are we still together on this route?
Precisely. Have you correctly followed me through these initial turns? If you were confused about which supermarket or maybe which traffic light, that phrase gave you a natural, easy opening to ask before I sent you further down the road.
Where fixing the mistake would be much harder.
Exactly. It keeps the guidance manageable. You confirm they've graphed segment 1 before you build segment 2. It prevents the listener from getting completely turned around later by making sure they're aligned with you right now.
Yeah, it feels like a necessary checkpoint. Are we literally on the same map right now?
Exactly that. Are you tracing the steps along with me?
Okay. Scenario number 3. Explaining a concept. Could be anything. Really a definition, an abstract idea.
Yeah, and concepts can be slippery, can't they? How you define them, how you describe them, the words you choose. It's all crucial. Let's try one.
Okay.
So the past tense is used for actions that already happened. Am I explaining that clearly?
Okay, stop. My response there It suggests I'm thinking right. Maybe trying to connect it to something I already know, or maybe just finding the definition itself a bit, well, abstract. I may explain that clearly.
Yeah.
Your go-to phrase there.
Because your signaled exactly that you were processing. And potentially the way I phrased the definition wasn't perfectly clicking for you. Yeah. Concepts rely so heavily on the language we use to describe them. So by asking, am I explaining that clearly? I'm putting the focus squarely on my words, my definition, maybe my lack of examples.
Right, on your part of the conversation.
Yeah. I'm inviting you to give feedback on the clarity of my explanation, not questioning your ability to learn grammar. This is so valuable when you're dealing with abstract ideas or technical terms or subtle nuances. If my definition of past tense isn't clear, you might misidentify verbs or misuse them later. So this phrase opens the door for you to say, could you give me an example in a sentence? Or how is that different from, say, the present perfect tense?
It prompts clarification on the delivery.
Exactly, on the delivery of the information itself, which helps ensure you're grasping the core concept accurately. It fosters that collaborative effort where the speaker takes responsibility for making their language understandable. It acknowledges, hey, this might be tricky, and my goal is to make my part, the explaining part, as clear as I possibly can.
It's almost like you're asking, is the window I'm showing you this concept through clean and clear?
That's a fantastic analogy. Is my explanation transparent enough? Yes.
Okay, let's move into a slightly more formal setting, maybe a business meeting, discussing performance or strategy, something like that.
Right. And in professional contexts, miscommunication can have, real consequences. So clarity is absolutely paramount. Let's try this one.
Okay.
The Q2 numbers dropped because of reduced demand.
I think I get it.
Do you follow?
Okay, stop. My response, I think I get it, sounds positive, but it's definitely hedging, isn't it? It signals I'm not 100% sure. And your check was, do you follow? Why that one?
Exactly. I think I get it is a classic signal for, okay, I understand the words you used, but maybe I'm not entirely convinced by the conclusion you drew or the connection you made. You stated a clear causal link. The drop in numbers was because of reduced demand. In a business context, understanding these connections is vital for making good decisions moving forward.
Yeah.
Do you follow? Is, like we discussed, a slightly more formal way to check if the listener is successfully tracking your line of reasoning, your analysis, the argument you're building. It asks, are you with me on this conclusion?
So it fits that analytical context.
Perfectly. Following a chain of logic or analysis is really common in professional discussions. If you just accepted my, I think I get it, without checking further, I might walk away with only a fuzzy understanding of the root cause of the numbers dropping.
Which could lead to bad assumptions later.
Exactly. Bad assumptions, poor planning, do you follow? Prompts me to either confirm, yes, I see the connection, or reveal where my uncertainty lies. Maybe I question the link between demand and the numbers, or I want to know why demand was reduced in the first place. It ensures we're aligned on the analytical point being presented. It's checking if I'm intellectually keeping up with the specific connection you've made.
It's really checking if we're on the same analytical page.
Precisely. Are you following the argument?
Okay, final scenario for these role plays. Helping out a classmate. Maybe with a math problem or coding, something where things build step by step and confusion can sometimes be sudden and total.
Oh, yes. And sometimes the confusion is really loud and clear. Let's try it. Okay. So you divide by 2, then subtract 5.
Wait, what?
Should I go over that again?
Okay, stop. Wait, what? Is pretty unambiguous there, right? That's a clear signal I am completely lost.
Absolutely no subtlety required to interpret that one. And that's exactly why, should I go over that again, is such a perfect response.
Because the confusion is obvious.
Yes. You don't need to waste time analyzing why I'm confused or questioning my intelligence. You just immediately offer the most helpful solution. Let's repeat it, or let's try rephrasing it. This phrase is incredibly empathetic and it's proactive. When someone hits a wall and says, wait, what? It means that last piece of information it did not land at all. Offering to go over that again shows patience. It shows a genuine desire to help me grasp the material. and it lowers the emotional barrier for me, the learner. I don't have to struggle to articulate what confused me or feel bad about interrupting again. You're already offering to rewind and try again.
And you might explain it differently the second time.
Exactly. Maybe use different words or break it down into even smaller steps. It makes the listener feel supported, comfortable admitting when they are truly lost, which is just vital in any kind of teaching or tutoring scenario. It's probably the kindest, most direct offer of help you can make when faced with clear confusion.
Yeah, those role plays really do highlight how the listener's response, or even just a lack of a clear response or a slight hesitation, can really cue you in to which phrase might be needed.
Mm-hmm.
And also how the nature of the information itself, is it steps, is it a concept, is it analysis, guides your choice too?
Absolutely. Seeing them in action like that really reveals the layers of nuance, doesn't it? It's not just about memorizing the phrases. It's about active listening, observing, and then choosing the check-in that best fits that specific moment, that specific context.
Absolutely. And honestly, it gives you peace of mind too, doesn't it? Knowing you've actually done your part to ensure clarity. You're not left there guessing if they really understood. You've actively opened the door for them to tell you if they didn't.
Yeah, you've created that safety. So we'd really encourage you listening now to maybe pick just one or two of these phrases, perhaps. Does that make sense? Because it's so incredibly common and versatile.
Or maybe, are you with me so far? If you find yourself often explaining things step by step.
Good one. Pick one or two and just consciously try using them in your conversations this week. It might feel a little, I don't know, deliberate or mechanical at first.
Yeah, possible.
But it will likely become much more natural quite quickly. And just remember, it's perfectly okay. In fact, it's often really helpful to pause the flow for a second and just make sure you're both on the same page.
It really does get easier with practice, definitely. And here's maybe something to mull over as you go about your day. Think back to a recent conversation, maybe one where you walked away wondering if you were really understood. Or perhaps a time where a small misunderstanding definitely occurred. Could pausing for just a moment and using one of these simple check-in phrases like asking, does that make sense? After you explain something complex, or are you with me so far? After giving a few steps, could that have potentially prevented the confusion? Just consider how proactively building these little phrases into your communication habits could change the clarity and maybe even the connection in your future interactions. So if you found this helpful and want more tips for your daily English,
please subscribe or follow Daily Easy English Talk wherever you get your podcasts.
And maybe share it with any friends who are also learning English.
Thanks so much for listening today.
Bye for now.